Okay, y'all, we're going to talk about depression because depression is just a label, but it affects all of us. Whether it's clinical and we got the diagnosis, or whether we're just super stuck in sadness or stuck in looking in the world at the world in a sad way. This video is going to help you understand the mental concept of depression and how it relates to spirituality and changing our lives. So listening to this, hopefully you can understand that depression, in my opinion, and the way I'd like to describe it, to conceptualize it a little different, is depression is stuck perception. It is, have you ever talked to somebody that's extremely depressed? All they can do is focus on the thing that they think is making them sad. Stuck perception. Why are you focusing on that? And you know, it doesn't matter how much we tell them don't focus on it. It's stuck perception. It's a glitch in the matrix, we'll call it. It is the downfall of your mind. It's stuck in the muck. So let's get to the way I've discovered how to get not only myself but my clients out of depression. It's really not that hard once you start to grasp it. Let's get to it. Okay, so just to further the agenda of this video, which is to help us understand how depression relates to spirituality, self-awareness, expansion, awakening, all that, because I'll use anything to help us understand how some concepts can be used to view things in a mind expansion way instead of just looking at depression in the stuck perception, which is, I was told depression is this, and so that's my perception now, stuck. And so everything about expansion is to get out of that. You know, I'm a student, wow, how many years now? Almost 20 years in Course in Miracles. It is literally, this whole book, Course in Miracles, is about changing our mind. Actually, the Bible's about that too. Be renewed by the transformation of your mind. So psychology tells us that, you know, depression is a cognitive distortion, which is true. I mean, let's just say that it's a cognitive stuckness, and the distortion is that stuckness. It's the thing we think over and over again, usually running in our unconscious and getting triggered by an external event, and we're kind of stuck there. You know, and in spirituality, they say, you know, the mind loops what the heart wants to heal. You know, just the levels of consciousness. We would be at the top levels of consciousness if we didn't have this stuck perception running in the shadow, right? The shadow, damn that shadow. So, you know, and our triggers are the awakeners, because if we pay attention to, oh, I'm triggered, and we want to project that it's somebody else, we have to realize the only reason I'm triggered is inside of me. So what is the belief? What is the stuck perception that can anchor me down in consciousness to the lowest, sad, or even worse, guilt and shame, right? Which are first cousins of depression. And so the state of your mind is always congruent with the state of your being. So depression would be way down here, and love, God is love, would be way up here. So why are we stuck, y'all? I think you're starting to get this part. So what is this stuck perception? Let's get to the ways that I've really found light speed way to get us out of these stuck perceptions and get us in our highest vibe. Because if we don't get this stuff, you know, neutralized, alchemized, we can't elevate. Okay, so let's use an example for somebody who does not have a perception that's stuck when it relates to an event versus somebody who does. So let's just say that an event happens, something happens in the reality. You know, let's just use road rage because that's a huge one right now. I think it's just really coming up because as the planet's trying to elevate us, it's like you can't even get through the bare minimum, which is road rage. Like, who cares? But it's just because of our culture, right? So stuck perception. In our culture, the reason people get so triggered, the belief behind it most of the time is because I got somewhere to go and I got people to do. Time is money. I mean, so many stuck perceptions of why we would get triggered about road rage. So the event is somebody cuts you off in traffic. And so when you have healthy cognitive biases built in, probably did a lot of inner work, or you just had a pretty carefree flow in life, or somebody taught you well how to process things and see from this expanded view, or not let little things take your peace, you know, that kind of thing from early on. But like the most of us on this planet and in our culture, we don't have that, but we're going to use it for concepts to understand. And so the healthy biased person would say, oh, this person must have really got somewhere to go or whatever. And they might not even think about it at all. Like, okay, dude, have it. And be on with, you know, but they have a broad perspective of life where they're not going to focus and narrow into this little thing that ticked them off, this event, is not going to get their perception stuck. And this is real important because if you really think about stuck perception, it's just literally like, why are you even thinking about that? It is re-triggering you, and it is the momentum, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And that is because you have a cognitive unhealthy bias about the world. And now the stuck perception is, now you're going to, it's like your ego mind is seeking for somebody to unleash on because of this stuck belief. Okay. And so wouldn't it just make sense to work on the belief? Because then if you change the belief to, I don't care who cuts me off, they must have somewhere to go, I'm not even going to pay it any mind, I'm just going to focus on something else, like the person with the healthy bias that I told you about. But it's not so easy because of this stuck perception, which is what causes depression. So let's get to the reason. Why do we have stuck perceptions? Why do we have this cognitive issue? And it's real easy. And hopefully this helps you start to overcome it. Most of the time, the reason that we have a stuck perception, and I just want you to understand, we're going to look at the stuck perceptions, but I don't want this to be psychology based. I'm a spiritual teacher. I'm a coach. I do not want us to get stuck in this cognitive behavior type stuff, which is helpful in certain junctures. But as I was taught early on by my energy teacher, and what I've used for myself to heal and then used for my clients is completely different. So I just want to make that note before we dive into a lot of the cognitive stuff, because sometimes we need to understand why we're surrendering our brain and why it's important, instead of actually doing the cognitive behavior stuff. So here it is. The more we focus on this, the more momentum builds energetically. So let's just say in our consciousness, we're at 100, but from the year 3, when somebody made us feel bad that we are a bad person, and our 3-year-old self is like, no, I'm not. They're bad. Did you ever tell your kids, why'd you do this? They're saying, but she did it. And that's, let's just say that's the cognitive distortion we have now, that when we are attacked, we blame another person. And so then what starts to happen is, since we've been doing it from 3 to, let's just say 30, 40 years old, now we, out of our 100% piggy bank of consciousness, 90% of it, depending on how long you've been doing it, and that's why you'll notice older people get much more bitter, and you don't want to end up like that, so let's get into working on this, is really wrapped up in this battle with others because you don't want to face the first original sin. I always have to say the original sin because Jesus is my favorite metaphysical teacher, but that original issue, the original event, right? And so now any event, so now if we're at 90% of our conscious energy is in this pattern, we are a walking time bomb. And then it can manifest in many ways. So somebody cuts you off, somebody is late to meet you, or your husband ignores you when you're talking to him, or your kid eye rolls you, anything. It gets to the point where you've invested all of your energy, because that's all consciousness is, into looking for somebody to project all of the pain on. Okay. So, but then I think the biggest, baddest depression comes in our awakening, because your soul is like, wait a minute, you're using all your energy to actually now look, perception, for the person that's wronging you. You have no choice but to do that, because you're patterned from the pain or the attack or events that now has all of the momentum, because momentum keeps perception stuck, right? So you need to break that up and get it back. And energy is never destroyed, or it's only transformed. So your energy is now here stuck. And this perception of that I need to defend myself from attack. And so now you're looking for it. And so have you ever been around a person? They're just so highly reactive. You're just like, oh my God. So the goal here is to understand that your stuck perception in your depression, the lowest end of the consciousness scale, is because of this. And so how? I mean, you guys have to see it. We all can see people that have all of their momentum wrapped up, and it's usually kids that have very traumatic childhoods, right? They're just highly reactive, super ghetto, just, they can't articulate through their feelings and get to the other side of it. You can't tell them nothing. Reminds me of Kanye, especially nowadays, right? So what we have to recognize now is, all right, I get it. We have stuck perception, and I just described to you how. And so underneath that is the belief that I'm bad, so I have to make everybody else worse. It's usually it all the time. But how do we, without doing the therapy thing and going back to when we were 3, and I don't want to sound condescending about therapy, y'all. I just feel like it's missing the point, which is, if we keep giving momentum to this stuff and not taking that momentum away, we have no choice but to have that knee-jerk reaction, be off to the races, and that's the way it is. And then we're ticking up. Oh, now I got 91% momentum, right? And before you know it, you're just a psychotic, crazy mess. True story. Okay, so now we get it. Stuck perception, keeping us at the lowest end of consciousness. And we want to get back up there to joy, peace, love. We want the clarity and the truth. Have you ever noticed that when you're really low, you only see the world in a really low way? And when you're really high, you believe in miracles. You believe in the best and this and that. So our mind matches our energy. So the momentum that we've given is now, there's no way out of it. And that's what depression is. It's literally, I've given so much of my energy. Now it's all stuck down here. And remember, our mind matches our dimension. It matches our level of consciousness. And so if we're in the lowest, world's going to be ick. We don't have an expanse of that. Yeah, there's some ick. But I don't have to focus on the ick. I can focus on the good. And I learned this lesson. I was just hitting brick walls. I can't tell people that the world is actually still beautiful. The sun rises, the moon's still going, sun, flowers, bees, trees. Screw all this science stuff. Spiritually, everything's great because of the stuck consciousness. And so that's what really helped me understand that the only thing that matters is to raise your level of consciousness, which is dictated by the way you feel, and then the mind will match it. But like I just made that example, when somebody's got too much momentum down here, can't tell them nothing. But this isn't for those people. This is for you. This is for me. We're the ones here trying to do the inner work, right? So what is the inner work? How do we get this momentum that's keeping us anchored in the lower dimensions of consciousness? It used to drive me crazy because I had so much momentum in the negative that when I would listen to Abraham in the beginning, I was like, B, listen here. You're telling me to get in the vortex, girl. I'm crying in my bed all day. The beginning of my awakening was wild. I'm going to start talking about that on this channel, like wild. So what's the answer? Obviously, if our mind matches and reality is what our mind creates it to be, how can we get out of this? Raise our vibration. And this is not, I even hate saying that, this is not fake woke shit, be happy, all that. We have got to really learn how to become alchemists, period. Because when we raise our energy, emotional, mental body, everything changes. We can't force it. We have to do this inner work. So the way that we fix it, I think we kind of really understand now, but it's really just to understand that when my perception's stuck, I have a limited view. I'm only laser focused. Have you ever tried to tell a sad, depressed person, don't think about that boy? You ever tried to tell a mad person, don't think about that car that cut you off? Or don't think about your husband cheating on you? Or don't think about the fraud on your credit card? They're stuck perception. You can't. It's just, and if you have no point of reference that it's possible not to even think about something after an event happens, then how do you even teach somebody? Because they're going to look at you like deer in headlights. Like, what do you mean don't think about it? Don't shift my consciousness somewhere else, do this, that. Because they are so low and stuck in that level of consciousness, they can't even see broader things. So how do we fix this? Remember I told you how Abraham pissed me off? We don't tell somebody to go from 0 to 100 when it comes to the consciousness scale. It's just not going to help. We have to go from 0 to 1. Or if we're in that, looking at it the way I said before, at 90% of our consciousness is stuck in the momentum of wanting to look for the bad guys because so I don't feel bad about all the things I do, then how do we get 1% of it back of peace? And that's real simple. The first thing you do is just accept the way you feel without projecting. So somebody cuts you off. You feel it come up inside and you say, ooh, this is about to take me into whatever you got to do, whatever floats your boat in that moment to help you remember, I need to get to acceptance and not project. For me, it was whenever something event happened, I would say something to the opposite immediately. And this took time, but trust me, this works. Somebody cut me off and I wanted to be like, you fucking dumbass. Instead, I would say, hope you get where you're going, buddy. Hugs. Just to put it in perspective. And, oh God, it kills. It does. Oh my God, it kills. It's like the depth of the inferno inside you because you're used to projecting that energy out. Okay. So once you start doing this, somebody use your credit card. Well, the bank's going to take care of it. It'll all work out. Your husband cheated on you. Well, must be getting a new soulmate. It wasn't working out anyway. Now, culturally, we're taught that we should feel bad when these things happen. And you might be saying in your head, the heck? I'm not supposed to grieve the fact that I'm going to lose my husband? No, I'm not telling you to avoid your emotions at all. I'm teaching you how to sit with them without projecting them and processing them so that you can get to the other side and that your natural default is learning to do that. an event happens, and then you're stuck there for a way past its expiration date, and then you're attracting more to keep the momentum of that energy. And so then your mind moves the goalpost. You're triggered by this, and then the momentum of that is keeping you in this low pattern. So then another this happens, and another this, and another this, and another this, because it's all just helping you stay in that narrow bandwidth of perception, which is shit. So the faster you can, and I don't like to use the word faster, but just learning this art of alchemy of, ooh, this sucks inside, but I'm not going to put it onto somebody else. I'm not spewing it out into the universe. If you need to look at the Power of Words video I put out, you do not want to spew. So just don't. And so, you know, it's really about alchemy. It's learning how to take our lower states and transmute them and then elevate that energy. Energy can never be destroyed. It can only be transformed. And so then, as you start to elevate that feeling, which starts with accepting and moving up a little, before you know it, nothing like that. You got all the triggers gone and you're good. You're just rocking it as far as in traffic. Then you can go on to the bigger ones, like your sister or your mama, you know, those really hard ones. And use this new energy pattern of alchemy that you have. And it starts with feeling and then releasing over and over again until you start taking that momentum away. And then you have elevated your consciousness to the higher states. And then your mind is at peace and ease. No depression. Okay, so I hope this makes sense. If not, comment below. Give me an example. I'll help you out. It's what I was put here to do. So if you like this video, please like, share, subscribe.